Why isn't the delete button working? What's going on here? Wow, this is cool. This is
supposed
something
to work
completely
this way.
different.
Wow, this is crazy.
Oh, nice. This is something
Who
we needed
gives
for
a
no
shit?
shit for
Sure.
This is unbelievable.
Oh, I see.
You know what? Buck FIM! Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to Buck FIM, the show where we talk about everything AEC. And today we have a really special lineup waiting for us. We have ourselves Zenon Radowich of the Citizen Care Pod on board. Zenon, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so we've got some really fun lined up today. We're going to be chatting with the Citizen Care Pod and how the modular transition for the industry has really changed everything for the better, especially coming into a situation where we had a pandemic pop out in the middle of nowhere, and there were a lot of things going on that required, a boost, a change, an alteration in the way we do things. And that brings me to you, Zenon. Like, how did Citizen Care Pod come to be? Who was involved? How did this flourish?
Cool. So basically, it all started last year, roughly the same time, maybe about a week ago last year. And I was having a discussion with one of our clients, Carl DeMarco, who we're working together with on a large bid for a project in Ontario. It's kind of confidential, so I can't mention it. But we were talking one night when COVID started, and we were thinking, you know what? If he should be successful and win this large project, how do we kind of protect the construction site? How do we keep the workers safe, with COVID? How do we keep this job going? So we came with this idea that we need to screen and test the workers as they come to the construction site, and and have this screening at all different entrance points to the site. So that's kind of how it started. It was like a discussion at 11 o'clock at night, and we were brainstorming, and I said, okay, Carl, let me think about this, and I'll come back with an idea. So then I thought, you know what, the best thing for this is using something that's or portable, something we could do very quick in terms of fitting it out. So a sea container made a lot of sense. So we did some quick sketches, some 3D models, using computer programs and things like that, and created, the Citizen Care Pod, which is basically a 20-foot or a 40-foot sea container retrofitted to basically allow frontline staff to work inside in a safe environment where it's heated, cooled, air conditioned, ventilated, etc., and have the people that are coming up to these windows be tested and screened. We also approached PCL, Canada's largest builder, one of the largest in North America, and asked them to kind of, if they wanted to join us in this idea. They said yes. They were already thinking about similar things, and right off the bat, they went and built 4 of these modules within about a period of 3 weeks. So we went from some sketches, some 3D models, to basically build prototypes in a period of 3 weeks.
That's amazing. To be able to turn around something like that, especially with a busy schedule like yourself, but having that background in smart technology really helps. I mean, you've been doing some smart tech for a while now, haven't you?
Yeah, about 3 or 4 years ago, we kind of, at WZMH, we kind of started to invest and spend time, in prefab modular, but also the technology side of buildings, specifically the IoT world, which kind of led us to, DC power, low voltage. So we really believe that there's a lot of, call it the value add when you look at prefab combined with technology, specifically, again, DC power and IoT. And when you combine both of them together, you get this true wow factor of call it new building ideas, right? That's kind of been the focus of a part of the firm in the last couple of years, is spending a lot of time in the prefab modular and the IoT world combined.
That's awesome. So, obviously, this comes with its struggles. Like introducing something like this, a Citizen Care Pod, which is a great thing, by the way. It's very much needed. But what kind of barriers have come up from proposing a privatized testing facility? I'm sure it's not easy.
Yeah, it's not easy because at the end of the day, everything is really called government controlled, and so a lot of our customers, they've actually been south of the border, where things are a little bit different in terms of the universities and even the hospitals that basically take on their own solutions. So we've been very successful south of the border. In Canada, it is now picking up. So things are starting to kind of open up in terms of the regulations and what's allowed to be done in terms of testing and screening, and the private sector getting a lot more involved actually on the testing side. We are not yet involved in any called sort of vaccination rollout. We did kind of design a pod that allows for a large amount of fridges to be installed to actually store the vaccines.
Good.
But right now, the focus has still been basically the testing and screening, and it's growing on the private sector side, really in terms of large businesses that basically want to ensure that their workplace or their industry is environment by screening and testing there before they enter these facilities.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I mean, like, so run us through a typical care pod. Like, what would be involved in your typical citizen care pod? Right?
So the typical citizen care pod, as I mentioned earlier, is start with a 20-foot or a 40-foot sea container. And we basically then on the inside, we basically frame it out with studs. We spray foam insulate it, as well as the underside is also spray foam, as well as the underside of the actual roof. We then basically finish the interior wall panels with gypsum board and/or like a high quality panel that's basically hygiene friendly. We put down on the floor sheet vinyl or linoleum flooring, put in a lot of LED lighting, and then basically we have a lot of options for the remainder of the unit in terms of stainless steel counters, whether they're fixed, whether they fold down, whether they're more like desks. So we add those features based on what the client wants. And then also what's very important in all of these citizen care pods is the mechanical systems in terms of the ventilation, the filters that we put into these pods in terms of the HEPA filters.
Very important.
The heating, the cooling, all of that stuff is really important to kind of create, again, a very safe environment for the frontline staff. You've probably seen a lot of photos and images on the internet and on TV about frontline staff working outside in tents. That was kind of okay for the summer, but it was not okay for the winter or the fall. And even in the summertime when it would rain or be windy, it wasn't great for them. So and all the locations where we've installed these pods, we received a lot of positive feedback from the frontline staff that basically saying it's a great place to now kind of work, comfortable, safe for them, properly lit, properly ventilated, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how Canadian you are; it's still cold out there. So I got to deal with it. I mean, yeah. So in terms of pods, like I know I've seen some diversity popping up. There's a lot. Shipping containers have been, starting to become they were a buzzword, but now it's a reality. It's coming out there quite a bit. So with the citizen care pod, I mean, is it the only pod that you guys are working on? Is there other applications?
Well, in terms of the citizen care pod family, call it, we started off with basically coming up with the smart screening and testing pod. And then shortly after that, actually, we developed a pod that's actually a visitation patient care pod that was designed for long-term care homes, where basically we put these pods tied up against a building. We basically pop a hole in the existing building that then allows the patients, the residents of these long-term care homes, to basically come into the pod that's, again, properly ventilated, highly ventilated, and then basically their loved ones, the families that come to visit them, actually walk into the pod at the other end. So now basically you have the residents in these long-term care homes who have been basically locked up, not being able to visit their loved ones, could now actually go into this safe pod and visit their family. And it's a great solution because the family never enter the actual long-term care home. They only go within the pod itself, and again, it's properly pressurized and stuff. And so basically, they could visit their family members who are in these long-term care homes. So we had a very successful rollout in Manitoba with PCL. Well over 100 of these pods were actually designed and built and installed across all of the long-term care homes in Manitoba, and that was done in a very short period of time, from I think around mid-September to like end of November. Designed, built, delivered, installed. So a very successful project.
That's fantastic. These are the sort of initiatives we really need to look at, especially the portability. I mean, being able to drop one of these units anywhere to use for multiple facets, that's amazing. So, I mean, there are tons of use cases obviously available for something like this, and the primary function was for healthcare, which, we really need to address that in some way or form. And that's why I was happy to see this happening. But so how does someone go to the Citizen Care Pod, or is it Citizen Care Pod or Citizen Care Health Solutions? I couldn't remember.
So now it's Citizen Care Health Solutions, because we've kind of gone from pods to now partnering with some called industry leaders that basically do the actual screening and actually do the testing itself. So the the idea that went from us just kind of designing and building pods has now gone to partnering with companies that actually do the full, call it, turnkey of the testing. So they are now called partnering with us as well, and now we offer to a number of private sector clients the full, call it, gamut of the pod itself, the staffing, the screening, and the testing, everything combined, including basically an app that basically tracks and provides all the data information you need to actually have your test done and stuff like that. So it's now really a turnkey solution of not just the physical product, but also now the testing side.
Perfect. So who would they reach out to get themselves set up with a pod?
So basically, we have a website. They could go to the website. There's information there in terms of contacting information. So our team is now kind of growing to we have people that are dedicated to taking on new customers and meeting them first and kind of going through their needs and then customizing a solution to actually suit what they actually need for their business. So they can start by going to our website and contacting us, and then we're very quick at responding back to them and setting up the proper meetings, and then walking through what we can do for them, and then looking at how we can customize our solution to suit their actual needs.
Amazing. That's super easy. And so where would you be manufacturing these? Is it local in Canada, or do you have other areas where you're popping these out? Or
So right now they're manufactured by PCL in 5 locations across North America.
wow.
So two locations in Canada, in Ontario and out west, and 3 locations in the States. So there's a lot of called footprint covered in terms of manufacturing base. So in terms of North America, totally covered, and capacity as well. PCL could at any given point in time be looking at doing over 400 of these pods per week, in North America. So, we are now having discussions with clients to look at deploying these pods in Africa, for example, and in the order of magnitude of a couple hundred of these units. So we're looking at that in terms of, building these in North America and basically shipping them overseas.
Amazing. That's really good. So I mean, I guess that brings us to our last question, which you kind of half answered there. Was what are the future goals of Citizen Care Pod? Like, is there ideas to expand overseas, or are you looking to stay in North America for now? Because it seems like it's an immediate need.
Yeah, so right now there's still a lot of interest in North America. So, although we are pursuing opportunities, called outside of North America, our focus is really more in North America. But our focus is kind of changing and looking at, the post-COVID world. We believe that the post-COVID world is going to be a world where, a lot of large industries, and organizations are going to still want to kind of, do some sort of called proactive testing and screening, ongoing, called forever. There's always going to be, things like the flu that's going to come up, a couple of times a year. So we believe that, that there's going to be this demand to kind of, put in place these risk management solutions for large organizations to basically monitor their staff from a screening perspective and a testing perspective to ensure that, should something come up again, they're on it right away versus, trying to do catch up later on. So we don't believe that it ends when the pandemic goes away. We believe it's going to become part of just how we kind of operate large industries moving forward.
Of course. And you know what? It doesn't hurt the fact that it's already a shipping container, so you can just shove it on a boat and there you go.
Exactly.
That's fantastic. It's a great way to keep things portable. This solution is something that we've needed for a long time. Happy to see it happen. Zenon, you've always been working hard to produce, new ideas for the industry and, lead the forefront for things going forward. Love to keep seeing it. We'll be having a lot more interesting tech leaders coming onto the show. But I want to say thank you, Zenon, for joining on. We're gonna cut out now and come in on Thursday. We have another shipping container company called Container that's going to be jumping on board. And it's going to be fun to see where this industry is going. Prefab is the wave of the future. So thanks again, Zen, and have a good one. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Take care, Dennis. Thanks.